Alright, so is Dino Mommy the best servant ever made? Not particularly, but is she really fun to use? Yeah, because I mean, who doesn't like to take a giant dinosaur and just chomp chomp stomp stomp all over all of the other servants in FGO? It's absolutely hilarious. Plus, if you're a fellow waifu connoisseur like myself, she's definitely got assets that, well, we would appreciate. So, is it worth going in solely for Dino Mommy? Not really. But Voyager's on the banner, and I mean, if you're gonna summon for Voyager anyway, you know, you got your Scotty, you're like, man, I really want a quick AoE servant in case I don't get Castoria, just so I have the fallback Scotty quick meta thing going on, right? Then maybe you can go ahead and snag yourself Dino Mommy while you're at it, right? Although, like I'm saying, she's not the best servant ever, she's definitely not bad, you can get a lot of mileage out of her. She's just maybe built a little, I don't know, wonky is maybe the way I would say it. But look, just give it like, I don't know, a couple of months on the JP version. They'll slap a battery on this bad boy and she'll be absolutely fine. So let's go ahead and start off by looking at her hits, where she has a pretty incredibly high 0.85% NP gain stat, which is pretty insane because it means if you can get crits on her arts card that has 3 hits on it, it means you are going to be refunding a metric butt ton of your NP back. The only problem is that she's a berserker and her natural star weight is a little non-existent, let's say that. She does have a skill to help out with that a little bit, and we'll talk about that when we get to her skills. But the other notable thing here is that she has a triple buster deck, meaning she can actually bust her Brave Chain without the need for her NP, which means that even without her NP, she can just do a really strong face card chain if you're buffing her up enough. She can also do some pretty good crit turns because, I mean, let's be honest, Merlin's still in the game. And even though Merlin, I don't think is quite as good as Koyanskaya, that doesn't mean he's bad. And you can use Merlin right now with Dino Mommy over here and have her, again, stomp the ever-living life out of everybody in the game. Although, aside from that, her star gen is a little bit lacking at only 4.9%, but I mean, Berserkers aren't exactly known for being star gens. Very rare when they're able to actually do that. She does have a 5-hit extra attack, which is insanely good because that means she's going to be able to get a little bit of that extra NP refund because her natural NP gain is so high. If you're not aware, the extra attack is a composite card that gens stars NP and does big boy damage. And hers having 5 with her naturally high NP gain stat means in a Brave Chain you can actually get that little bit of NP back. You can squeak out just a little bit of extra NP because her natural NP gain is so high. That being said, let's move in to her skills, starting off with the aptly named Skill 1, Shapeshift Dinosaur. I've never seen a Fate skill named so appropriately. This is going to pack 30% defense onto our Dino Mommy for 3 turns to keep her alive. And then here's that crit support I was talking about. It gives her 5,000% star weight, which, if you're not as familiar with like how star weight and everything works, that's pretty much guaranteed stars. You're pretty much going to guarantee get all the stars for her for that one turn this is active. And I would use this on turns where you have stars and you have her arts card, because then her arts card, when you can draw all the stars over there, basically becomes a battery, because you'll hit with that 3-hit arts card with 85% NP gain, and you'll just refund pretty much all of your NP back. You'll get a lot of it back. Especially if you can somehow get it into like an arts Brave Chain with someone like your Merlin or your Waivers or whoever you're using to buff her up. If you're looking for a free-to-play option, Chen Gong actually pairs very well with her because he gives her additional defense, has a taunt to keep people off her back, and his buff is pretty much Merlin's hero creation skill, but specifically for Berserkers. And what do you know, Dino Mommy is a Berserker. So if you can get this, especially in an arts chain where the arts NP gain will be buffed up, it makes it even better, right? So you can just pop this and have it up at all times because it is on a 5-turn cooldown, and so it's going to be up pretty much more times than it's down. At least for the defense, you can use it to kind of keep her alive, or you can save it for when you can do that burst turn with her arts cards to really give her some maximum refund. Then we move over to her second skill, which is giving her a 30% buff to her quick and her buster cards. Now, the buster cards, I understand. You want that 30% buff to her buster cards because you want to gas up the damage of her buster Brave Chains regardless of if the NP's in there or if you're just doing some face card damage. But the quick card is a little bit weird because her star gen is already really bad. You would have thought this should have been an arts buff instead to further raise the damage of the arts card, but more importantly, give it even more NP gain. So a crits arts card would kind of just function as a battery. It's very, very weird, but I don't know, maybe in the future we'll see her get like a 30% arts buff tacked onto this, or maybe it'll give her the ability to change her NP to quick or something like nonsensical like that. Because honestly, right now, I really don't see the synergy in it. I mean, her quick cards are pretty much the weakest part of her kit, but I don't know, maybe they'll buff it up later. Maybe they'll do something with her quick cards later. Something of note here, though, this is yet another Buster servant that buffs their allies' overcharge stage, although, unfortunately, you can only target this to one ally, but it does last for 3 turns. So if your Dino Mommy is about to die, you can slap this on over to them, and even though it only lasts for 1 instance, it technically will last for 3 turns. So you don't have to use it immediately right there, so you can kind of like throw the buff off to them or something. You can also give it to herself because her overcharge and her NP is pretty fine. It'll help her look a little bit more impressive if you start stacking the overcharge of her NP, so not a bad skill overall, just a little weird with the quick buff there on the second skill. And then finally there's her third skill. This one's a little odd, but it still ends up being pretty good because it gives the entire party a 2k heal, which isn't a whole lot, but when you consider that she's going to be getting paired with people like Merlin, who also does passive healing with his NP, it's really not all that bad because then it's like, okay, I have an immediate heal, plus I have Merlin's healing over time to kind of keep us alive. She makes the party immune to insta-kills for 3 turns, which is more of a niche thing, but it is still nice if you're doing some of the harder challenge quests. You know, if they bring back the Hassan challenge quest or the Skahawk one where the enemies can just start insta-killing you randomly, it's very nice for stuff like that. Because if you don't know, those insta-kill things will bypass all of your defensive buffs. So you could have like 100% defense set up and they'll still insta-kill you. So still very, very nice to have for the more hard fights. And then this is just the only like wonky part is that she removes the latest debuff from the entire party. So basically imagine your entire party gets hit with an attack debuff down and then a defense debuff down. She would remove the defense debuff down, but nothing else. But she would do it for the entire party. It honestly, to me, kind of feels a bit like a shaft, because since they already made her a little wonky with the second skill and they haven't really given her an immediate way to buff her NP gain, aside from like inadvertently doing it with the star weight that you can pair with her arts card, like they haven't given her a battery or an arts buff or an NP gain buff, anything like that. You could have tossed her this really good piece of support where she just debuff cleanses the entire party, which sounds really OP because it is. But we do need a few more servants that can do that in the game because we're a bit limited on having really strong servants that can also do something as insane as just yeet the entire party's debuffs off of them. I mean, that's also one of the reasons why Castoria is so insane when it comes to challenge quests. This would also be really insane because Castoria does it on NP. She would do it on skill, meaning it's on demand, which is really insane. But, I mean, overall, all of her skills are fine. It's not like she's doing anything super offensive. The only thing that's really weird is the quick buff, but it's whatever. Moving over to her NP, if you peep the overcharge effect, she's actually stacking attack for 3 turns, which is why she can start to ramp up really quickly if you give her proper support. And it'll be easier once Koyenskaya comes out, because, again, right now, she's really reliant on getting her refund from those arts cards. That getting consistent NPs in this like 3-turn time frame can be a little difficult to start stacking that attack, but once Koyenskaya comes out, she definitely could do it a lot easier, and then that damage you see on the chart that seems a little lackluster will actually start ramping up, because if you use the overcharge buff on herself, that's just going to start at base as an additional 25% attack, and every subsequent NP, if those are also an overcharge one, those are going to be an additional 20% each. And keep in mind, those attack buffs, while they add into each other as a buff, they are additive, they multiply into her Buster buff, which is really insane. Because then it can actually give her a lot more damage by having that 30% Buster buff multiplying into a 25% to potentially a 40% attack buff, which can get really, really insane. The only unfortunate thing is that she does inflict burn to herself, which is why I'm assuming they gave her the debuff cleanse in the first place so she could take that off of herself and heal it back. So she has some synergy to take care of that herself. But again, come on, man, just make it a party-wide debuff immunity. Just make her yeet all the debuffs off everybody. She's already a berserker. She's already getting slammed by pretty much every class in the game. Let's just give her a little bit of an easier time because she's Dinosaur Mommy, bro. Like, who doesn't like some Dinosaur Mommy? All that being said, should you summon specifically for Dino Mommy? Definitely not. She's definitely very usable, a little wonky, But if you have like Mori, if you have someone like Heracles, even Beowulf after his buffs, people like those, you can definitely get by with a lot of those single target buster berserkers, right? And I know this is gonna sound a little crazy, but even if you have like NP5 Lu Bu, which you should because he's a 3-star servant, he's gonna be outputting more damage plus piercing defense and would probably help you burst down bosses a little bit quicker than Dino Mommy over here, but again, if you can get Dino Mommy to higher NP copies, she can then start competing with other people and start becoming, I don't want to say like a little more worth it, but you guys kind of get what I'm going with that. But thankfully, she's a really hot character that is on a banner with a really OP farming servant, so you can kind of make the excuse to throw a couple multis for Voyager. Don't go too hard though, because remember, Castoria is coming in like 2-3 months, and you'd much rather have Castoria because she is going to pretty much break the game when she drops. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Leave a like, subscribe. If the daily uploads aren't enough for you and you want even more content, not only do I stream every weekday over on my Twitch, but I do upload videos for channel members exclusively if you click that join button. Also, you can support the channel for free by going down in the description down below and downloading LD Emulator, which is a great way to play any mobile game on your PC, which I personally use with my own personal FGO account, so you know, I trust in the product that much. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.